Hey guys, welcome back. In the last lecture, we finished the controller specs for resource actions like new, show, edit, and destroy, and we already covered the specs for the create, update, and index action. So our controller specs for all the resource action has been completed. Now in this lecture, we will look on how to write specs for non-resource action in your controller. By non-resource action, I mean that the action for which you need to define routes manually, and it can be either a collection or member action. In our course project, we also have a collection action named as fetch country state into users controller, and it is defined as the collection route. So let me show you that action in the users controller. So here in the users controller, you can see that the action name is fetch country states, and in the routes.rb you can see that I defined this the route for this action fetch country state as the collection route inside the user resource. Okay, now in this lecture we need to write specs for this custom controller action, but before that let's understand that what this action is doing. So in the users controller you can see that what it is doing, that it is accepting a country code parameter in the method. Okay, and then it's trying to find a country from the country select gem, and if a valid country found, then we are rendering the states for that country. Okay, let me show you through the example. So just switch to the browser, and here you can see that my server is running. Just refresh the page, and now just make some space at the terminal where server is running. So just make some space and click on a new user link. Okay, so just click on this new user, and here you can see that the form for creating new user is now appearing into the bootstrap model. Okay, so again make some space on the terminal, and now just select a country name. For example, let's select the Bangladesh. Here you can see that once you select the Bangladesh, just switch to the terminal where server is running, and you can see that a request is sent to the fetch country state action of the users controller with the country code BD, and the request is coming as turbo stream. Okay, and the request is coming as turbo stream, so we are getting all the states exist for the BD or Bangladesh. Okay, whatever the country code you provide into the request parameter. Now, if you want to verify this, you can verify it in the Rails console as well. So switch to the terminal new terminal tab and run the Rails console. Okay, and here we will verify that what this method is doing. So just switch to the user controller again and just copy this line. Okay, so country equal to this line, and we will replace this params country code with our custom country code, because in console we cannot use params. So here we can provide, let's say, in. Okay, or if you provide in here, you will see a country, and now if you wish you can execute this command to get all the states. Okay, so when you run this command or run this line, you will see all the states belongs to India. Okay, so here let's put states. So here you can see that the states contains list of all the states into country India. Okay. Now what happen if you provide an invalid country name? Okay, so let's provide ABC here. Okay. If you provide ABC, then you will get nil. And if you try to execute this states query now, then you will see that undefined method states for nil class, or you will get the no method exception or no method error exception here. Okay, and that's what we need to test, or we need to write specs for. Okay, so just switch to the users controller spec. Okay, first what we will do here, we will handle the nil case here. So we will add rescue block, and then we will provide that if the invalid country code is arrived as the request parameter, then we will set at the rate states to nil. Okay, so states equal to nil here. Okay, and now we need to write spec for our fetch country state collection method into the user controller spec. So here you can see that this is the user controller spec. So just copy this describe new block, and we will just keep something and remove something from this describe block. So first we need to remove this user one. Okay, because we don't need that. Okay, so you can remove this here. Okay, and we need this user to get signed into the system, because we have before action authentication implemented for the user. Okay, now what we can do, we can remove all these except statements as well, because now we're gonna accept something else. Okay, so first we will check if we are passing an invalid country name. Okay, so what we can do here, it should returns state as nil, states as nil if with invalid country code, with invalid country code. Okay, just make some space here. Okay, so now you can see it should return states as nil with invalid country code. And now what we need to do here, we need to change this action name. So first we will remove this user params, and here what we will add, new to fetch country states. Okay, so or just copy this name, method name from the controller and paste it here with the action. So get fetch country states, and in the params what we need to provide here, you can see in the action that what we are accepting in the request, that params country code. So we need to pass the country code, the country code. It should be, let's say, ABC. Okay, so we know that it is not a valid country code, so our states array must be nil here. So what we can write here, let's say accept expect signs, and then what we will add here is states. Okay, and you can know here why I'm adding assigns states, because assigns represents the instance variable which is inside at the controller action. Okay, so here we are using assign states. Okay, and it should be dot to eq nil. Okay, it must be nil. So now let's execute this spec. So switch to the terminal and close this rails console. And now what we need to do, RSpec, and then spec controllers, then user controllers, and here you need to provide the line number, that is 317. Okay, so just execute this line 317, and you will see that our spec will get passed. Okay, so there is some error. Okay, so there is, I think, some mistakes of comma that we need to handle. So just add the comma here, and now run your spec. Okay, and you will see that this time the spec will get passed. Okay, so it's running, and you can see one example, zero failures. Now this is the case that we handle with an invalid country code. Okay, and now what we can handle with valid country code, that it must include some set of states or some state, or and also how should, what should be the count of the total states written by a valid country code. So first we will check for the count. So let's add here, just copy this it block. Okay, and here it should returns states count with valid country code. Okay, so let's provide in here. Okay, so we are providing India as the country code, and then we need to add accept assigns dot states dot count. Okay, and what we will match here, like for example, let's say make it 50 right for now. So 50, and just add a debugger to the users controller action, so that we can just verify that what is the count of states. Okay, so add the debugger here. So debugger. Okay, and now run this spec. And when you run this spec, you will see, sorry, we need to run the spec at the line number 325. Okay, so just change this line number. So execute this 325, and now you will see that your spec will halt at this action, because of this debugger. Okay, so just shift to the terminal tab, and here you can see that we able to get the country code with country in. So we can add. Okay, so we are getting this country. Okay, and now what we need to do, just send. Okay, so we are getting the states array here. Okay, and now just to check the count of the states. So at the rate states dot count, and you will see that we are getting 40 here. But in our spec, what we mentioned 50. So our spec will get fail for now. Okay, so here you can see that if we exit from the debugger, you will see that expected 50, but we got 40. So now what we need to do, we need to change this 50 to 40. Okay, so our one valid country code spec has been passed, and now we can do this for another country code as well. Just sorry, with this valid country code as well, with another expect statement, that we can expect that some specific states must be there. Okay, so what we can add, like for example, let's say assign states dot to, and here we can use include method. Okay, and then we can accept some state here, let's say for example MP. Here you can see in the terminal that our states are coming as the collection of array where we can choose this one. Okay, so just copy this MP Madhya Pradesh, or you can copy any arbitrary state value as well. So I'm just going to use this MP Madhya Pradesh, paste it here. Okay, so what this spec will do, that it should include a given state of the country, of the valid country, of the valid country, and remove everything from this do block, sorry, this it block statement. Okay, so what this spec is doing, that it should include a given state of the valid country. That means get fetch country states, and our country code is now IN, and we are expecting assign states to include MP Madhya Pradesh. That means whatever states we get with the country code India or IN, it should include this state Madhya Pradesh in its result. Okay, so first what we can do here, just remove this double quoted string and use the single quoted one, because we just need to follow the best practices. Okay, and now just check the line number of this spec. So it is at line number 333. So now execute the spec again, so 333. And once you run this spec, it will again halt the execution of the debugger at the controller level. Okay, and now what we can use, at the rate states here. So at the rate states dot include, and then just check whether this is included in the list or not. So we can pass here, let's say MP, and then Madhya Pradesh. Okay, and here let's see. So it is true. So our spec will get pass here. Okay, so you can see one example, zero failure. Okay, so our specs for the custom action has already been passed. Okay, now let's run all the user specs at once. So first remove the debugger from the controller action. Okay, and now run this spec, all the user specs without any line number. So you will see like 20 plus examples and zero failures. Okay, like we can have specs for all these things. Okay, now you can see in the terminal here 26 examples, zero failures. Okay, now we can do one thing, that you can see that in the describe new what I have. So we can just remove the describe new, and we can add describe get custom actions. It means that we will write all custom action specs here. Okay, so get custom actions. And in the last lecture I think I made one mistake, that we don't need this let user one for the action new, because we don't need any user ID or any user to be created when we requesting for the new user. So now let's change this and run all user specs again, and you will see again that 26 examples and zero failures, because this spec for the new action will work even if we do not provide any user in the parameter. Okay, you can see 26 examples and zero failures. Okay, so all the controller specs has been passed for the user controller, and now you can verify with this spec file that we have wrote all specs for all the actions defined in the controller. Okay, and what are the actions here? You can see index, show, new, edit, create, update, destroy, and fetch country states. Okay, so our controller specs are done now. And now in the next lecture, we will move to the request specs. But before moving to the request specs, I'm trying to explain one thing to you, that here you can see that first we implemented the users controller, and then we started writing specs for this user controller. But with the test driven approach, what you need, test driven development approach, what you need to do, that first write your test. Okay, then try to make it fail, and then write enough code so that your test will get passed. And once your test get passed, then implement your feature. Okay, so in that case you will follow the actual test driven development approach. Okay, and in that way you can either do this with RSpec or mini test, doesn't matter, but this is the best way to writing your test. But sometimes it might be possible that you implemented the feature first, and then you realize to write specs for that, because I see a lot of applications there feature are already implemented, but later on we the client decide to write specs for that, or the developer decides to write specs for that. So it doesn't matter. You must have idea about how to write specs and how to get them passed and how to evaluate all the possible scenarios using the request, sorry, the controller specs or request specs, it doesn't matter. Or if it belongs to model spec, then you need to do the same thing as well. Just a little approach will be changed and you will be able to get all the specs done for you. Okay, so here you can see that we wrote the coverage for the entire user controller here. Okay, and you can see one thing that is the fact that you can see that I have total 352 lines executed inside the user controller spec, and that is the main thing that some clients want to skip the specs or writing specs or the test development. Why? Because writing spec is also a part of development, and it you can say like it increases the development cost, because if you write a feature, then you have to write code to implement that feature, and you have to write all the possible scenarios to validate that feature. Okay, so that your functionality will not break in any case. Okay, but writing test coverage is also part of writing code, so it might increase development cost most of the times. Okay, so but still you must have some idea about writing the specs. Okay, so let's try this lecture at your end, and we will meet into the next lecture with request specs. Till then, tata, goodbye, take care, stay safe.